Really?
Yes, for real.
Let's see if I still have this up around here. I do. Hey, Grandpa.
Come explain this to Mason.
Can you see okay from there? Here, take a look.
I am the last cook left in the contest, and if I were you, I would leave before the English gourmet returns.
Yeah, take a look. Explain this to Mason. How does that happen?
Exactly. Yeah. How is it done? Come on, you're a structural engineer. You know these things, or not a structural engineer, but an engineer. But you have a pretty good idea, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well, I think you blow out the supports on something and something falls down.
Like that?
Yeah.
They decide to make their super duper
The explosion in the center goes off slightly ahead of the explosions in the exterior.
Guys, I can barely hear Grandpa. Can you turn that down low?
He said the explosion in the center happened slightly before the explosion in the exterior.
Okay. So when we want to take down a building, explain to Mason the whole load-bearing thing and all of that and how that works.
Every building has points where the weight is distributed to. And they're like this house sits on a foundation. So the whole house is sitting on the foundation, but there are beams going across. They might find, some support beams underneath. I don't think. Do you have any support beams underneath?
Well, yeah. We've got a column, one column in the basement. Oh, I think two. We might have two. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's one though. I'm certain that there's at least one because this is the right size house for it.
Yeah.
So what would you do?
So if you want the house to collapse in on itself into the foundation, you blow out the center first, and that blows all the the joists that hold the house up, right?
Right.
And then, so the center is starting to go down, and then in this case you just blow out some of the side points.
Can you show Mason where in that's happening?
Yeah, right at the beginning you can see the roof collapse a little bit ahead of the exterior.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so you would call this a what? You would call this a what?
Demolition.
There is a word for it that I told Mason. I don't think he remembers.
I don't remember.
Implosion. Implosion demolition, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's what it. But this is a classic example of.
An implosion does.
Exactly, and you would agree that is a classic example of a controlled demolition, basically.
Right.
Is there any way for buildings to fall down like that by accident? Because otherwise we wouldn't need people to demolish buildings that way.
Not that neatly.
Not as neatly as this.
Yeah. Assuming that's all going into its foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a pretty good example of one.
Yeah.
Great. What's fun is it's really hard to get people to actually recognize that, considering that the building that you were just looking at was the Solomon building. Do you know what building that is? The Solomon building was apparently demolished in a controlled demolition, as you say, it was right around 5:30 p.m. on the 11th of September 2001. That building came down. Oh, and it was in Manhattan, I believe. That's Manhattan, right? Oh, the World Trade Center. Yes, that was one of the other buildings that came down in a controlled demolition. Pretty neat, huh?
Okay.
Well, it was a controlled demolition, right?
It looked like it, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty nifty stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't like to talk about that sort of thing. But there's your example of a controlled demolition, and as he said, you have to bring down the center first.
Right.
That was a perfect example of it, just like Grandpa said, because you can see the ceiling, the center, collapsing first.
Right.
Okay? Perfect example of an implosion demolition. Thank you very much.